Okay, in this tutorial we are going to do a little bit of refactoring. This is because now we invoked our student repository directly inside the student controller. You want to keep your controller as simple as possible, and usually it happens that when you use directly your repository inside the controller, while you are developing your application, if you add a lot of functionalities, and maybe this is just not a way to retrieve a single student, and you want to take different students, do some kind of operations, add some data, merge some data. Maybe you want to have another layer of abstraction. So this episode will be just about refactoring. We are not going to change anything, but this is just an example on how you can organize things better. We don't want to invoke this student repository inside this controller. We are going to create a new package, and we are going to call this package service, and we create a new class, and this class will be student service. We can annotate this student service with the service annotation, and inside of this class we can use auto-wired, and we can cut and paste this piece of code. And now inside this student service we can create some method to abstract our objects. For example, here before, okay, inside this student controller we want to return, first of all we want to invoke this student service, so we're going to use auto-wired, and we are going to call this service student service. So auto-wired private student service import class student service. Okay, and now inside this hello method we want to invoke something from student service. Now let's get rid of this line, and of course we don't have methods, but we can implement something inside this service. So we are going with public string, for example, get student by ID. For example, maybe we can go with long ID, and then we can invoke this student repository dot find by ID. This is a different method than before, but this is a good example on how we can use JPA to create some logic to retrieve data. So we're going with this, and we are going with ID, and we return this student repository find by ID. Of course, the problem is that we have a different return type. We can click on this, and it will autocomplete our return type with optional students. Optional are super useful, are the standard right now, so I'm going to use optional student. I don't know if you know what an optional object is. It basically it's a way to say optional student. It means you can have an object, it could be empty or it could contain a student. And now inside this get mapping hello, you can invoke your method. You can use find by, maybe I've used get student by ID, get student by ID, And of course we need an ID to pass inside this code. Here we can go with get. Usually you must use before is present to check if the optional object contains something, but now we assume that we are going to retrieve something. Here we are going to make this a little bit realistic, so we can use student and slash ID. So when we are going to invoke this API with the get method, we are going to use this path student slash a number, and now we can use path variable long ID. This is great. We can pass ID inside of this method, and of course there's provided. Okay, now we are returning we told that we need a string, but now we are returning a student object. We can do something like toString just to check the API to see if we can test this API. Of course, IntelliJ it complains about this optional.get without present is check. Usually you have to use is present before to do get, otherwise it can throw an exception, but we are going to see an example of this. We click on debug and okay, it's on. Now we can open Firefox, and we don't, if we try again hello, it will throw an error. If we try student/1, here we have our student. Now this is just a generic toString, so of course it's now printing something that you don't recognize, but this is correct. And if you write something like this, ID2, it will throw an error. This is what we said a moment ago. This is because notice the error, no value present. No value present, no such element exception. This is because we tried to use .get, but there's nothing inside this object. So now we can even modify this. It's not mandatory, but I prefer to use something like get student by ID just to keep everything coherent and concise. And for now it's okay. We can try to implement the post method in the next episode.